Nigeria can never stop amazing us. If ever there was a medal for a lawless country in Africa, then Nigeria wins this medal hands down. As it turns out, Nigeria owes a Chinese company 7.5 million USD, and it has now become a national embarrassment. This Chinese company, Songshan Industrial Investment Company Limited, had no choice but to appeal to a French court to authorize the seizure of 3 Nigerian presidential jets in France as collateral for an unpaid debt. Hello and welcome again to the Edgy Politics Podcast. Geopolitical Queen here with today's episode on the lawlessness of the country called Nigeria, which is deeply rooted in all its systems. So what happened? Songshan, a Chinese company, entered into a joint venture with the Ogun state government for the development of a free trade zone in 2007. In 2015, after a change of government, the new state government decided to terminate the contract on claims that the Chinese company did not carry out its part of the agreement beyond the construction of a perimeter fence on the land earmarked for the free trade zone. The piece of land on which the free trade zone was supposed to have been built was a 10,000-acre land in Ogun State. After this abrupt cancellation of the contract, they signed a new contract giving out 2,000 acres of the land, which was part of the 10,000 acres, to a new company known as Junction, under the Chinese Africa Investment Company, to build an industrial park. By 2016, businesses had moved into the zone and Nigeria had collected approximately 160 million naira in tax revenue from the free trade zone. After the first half of 2016, however, the agreement between both parties was terminated, leading to Songshan filing lawsuits in Nigeria in some of their federal and state courts, seeking reinstatement of its contractual rights. The legal proceedings were, however, discontinued in spring 2018. Whilst Songshan was fighting its case in court, unknown to Songshan, the Ogun State had already terminated its agreement with the Junction Company too, claiming that another Chinese company was now legally entitled to Junction's share of the free trade zone. Note that Ogun State had previously contracted that area to the parent company before giving some to the Junction Company. So, since there were no repercussions to their lawless acts on Songshan, they thought they could do the same to Junction too, forgetting that they had agreements with both companies. Consequently, after terminating the contract with Junction, some Ogun State officials started threatening the Junction executives to leave the country willingly or face forceful removal. Instead of taking legal action against Chongqing to leave the country in a month, as their law dictates, Ogun State issued an arrest warrant for two of the Chinese company's executives. The Nigerian Federal Police arrested one of the junction executives and detained him for 10 days. During that time, the police allegedly denied this executive food and clean water. The police assaulted him, intimidated him, whilst questioning him about the whereabouts of the other executives. Disgruntled at this maltreatment from the Ogun State officials, Chongqing took the case to the Court of Arbitration in France. Although Nigeria was said to have challenged the jurisdiction of the arbitration tribunal on grounds of sovereign immunity, the tribunal, however, disagreed with Nigeria and slammed Ogun State with a 60 million damages in favor of Chongqing on March 26, 2021. Nigeria, lawless as ever, refused to pay the fine. Chongqing, with no other choice than to appeal to countries where laws worked, applied for an order from a United Kingdom tribunal to seize Nigeria's assets in the UK in payment of the judgment debt. The company also sought for a similar request from a United States court over the said debt. Chongqing's application in March subsequently led to the seizure of 3 Nigerian presidential jets in France on 16 August 2024. Reacting to the seizure of the presidential jets, the UK Supreme Court declared that Nigeria had violated the investment treaty with China in 5 ways, being: 1. Nigeria didn't provide Johnson with fair and equitable treatment. Nigeria engaged in unreasonable discrimination. Nigeria neglected its responsibilities of protecting junction executives. Nigeria wrongfully took away investments without compensation, and Nigeria had to pay a fine of $55.6 million in compensation and another $75 million in moral damages, including interest, legal, and arbitral fees. Since 2021, when all these fines were charged, Ogun State had not paid anything to the Chinese company. Actually, instead of paying the bill, Nigeria has been looking everywhere else for any excuse to avoid paying this fine. But every court that Nigeria has been to counter this judgment, the Chinese won. Instead of the current Tinubu administration taking full responsibility and trying to work things out amicably, Nigeria is rather acting like the victim. Nigeria is accusing China of just trying to strip Nigeria of its assets. The statement by the presidential spokesperson said that the presidency is aware of the various failed attempts by a Chinese company junction to take over offshore assets of the federal government of Nigeria through subterfuge. The speaker also stated that this arm-twisting tactic by the Chinese company is the latest in a long list of failed moves to take over government-owned assets in foreign jurisdictions. End of quote. And then went on again to say that, and I quote, the Chinese company misled the judicial court in Paris. End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, you just can't make this up. Ogun State also released a statement claiming that they were the victims. They did nothing wrong. It was rather the Chinese company that wanted to exploit them. Can you believe this? The point here is Ogun State signed a contract with this parent and sub-Chinese companies. Why didn't they take legal action against the companies if there was any wrongdoing by the companies, but rather arrested and beat the executive up? Which civilized nation and people does that? Why do we have bilateral and international laws just for the sake of it? Can Nigerians really explain that to some of us to understand how they tick? But typical Nigerian style, using force, as in beating up the executive, would take care of the issue, right? Well, as it stands now, it is not only the 3 presidential jets that are seized in France, but 2 buildings belonging to the Nigerian government in Liverpool. Further plans to seize other Nigerian assets in the United Kingdom, the United States, and in 6 other countries has also been initiated. The Chinese company have also instituted legal proceedings in about 8 jurisdictions globally, including in Belgium, Canada, France, Singapore, and the British Virgin Islands. So what do you think? Can Nigeria ever learn to respect international laws and stop using force to solve all problems like thugs? Well, kindly leave your comments in the comment section below. And thanks for tuning in. I will be back with the next broadcast. Good day.